First episode of the new setup, eh?
Yes, sir.
Bro,
Let's go.
Looking fresh.
Tyler's first episode.
Yeah, my first episode as
Tyler.
well. No one knows me. I've just
Tyler,
been the
mate.
name.
The what? Everyone knows you.
How many days you been in now? 4 days? Day 4?
Yeah, day 4 in Goldie.
What are your thoughts so far?
I'm loving it.
Loving it. Feel at home?
I feel like I'm home, and I've been on holiday for the past
So-
23 years in Sydney.
So what took you so long?
I had to finish off some work I was doing back in Sydney.
Nice.
Yeah, got to leave on good terms.
Yeah. How'd your mum take it?
She was
Damn.
upset that she was losing her favourite child, obviously.
Yeah, I don't blame her for, you being the favourite.
Yeah, no one can fix her door handles now or the vacuum cleaner like I've done here.
Can I say you've been hella useful so far? Just
my
come in and
God.
fixed everything.
Bro, this guy brought a whole ute
He's
full
so
of
handy.
tools.
He's so
I
handy.
left a labour-intensive job to come do more labour up here.
Yeah, you fixed
Pretty
it.
much.
You fixed
And
the
just
ca-
not get paid
Yeah,
for
I don't
it.
get paid now for it,
And
unfortunately.
you built that cool sign.
Yeah, I did that when I was
you
working
did
in
that.
labour.
Fixed a couple doorknobs.
Hung up these curtains.
Fixed cleaned up the vacuum.
It'd be funny if,
Bit of
like,
this,
as
bit
you
of
said,
that.
hung up these curtains. They just dropped as well.
I
Like.
hope not.
A bit like the.
I was a bit concerned at first when I put them up, but yeah.
We need more Tyler context for the people that don't know him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How would you
me.
guys ask some questions and dig deep into who am I?
Yeah, I mean, we
Or you think that people
met
would
at
want to
Sea
know?
Olympic Park. It's like a gymnastics
Yeah.
place, Anthony.
I think I've actually been there a couple times. Once or twice.
Really?
The gymnastics center in Olympic Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Probably a really popular spot.
Yeah.
But now we're all banned from it, apparently.
Why?
Yeah, all the
What'd you
Cali
do?
guys.
No, we didn't do anything. It was all the parkour people. Like, they just jumped from the top balcony and, like, there was a broken mirror and stuff, and people would double swing on the bars. Like, 2 people would go on the bars at once and, like, swing.
They don't like that
Yeah.
because it's very
So all this
like, proper
insurance stuff,
gymnastics.
and so they just kicked us out. But we went to that spot for almost a whole year. That's how we met, and we went there every Sunday just to train. But now
Damn.
all that
Yeah.
is gone.
Yeah, me and Jordan went there, and that's how we met everyone. Because I knew Jordan previously through
Once
a mutual
again,
friend.
calisthenics just bringing us all together.
Yeah,
That's so sick.
So we've known Tyler for a year and a half or so. Similar to
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Isaac.
Yeah, I've known him for all of 4 days. but we
Solid
were
4
talking
days.
about this
Best
at dinner.
mates.
It just feels like it's freaking.
Yeah, I feel like I've known you for ages.
Yeah,
Anton.
it's crazy, bro. We just clicked.
No, it's been really good, really, really good. It's good to be in an environment now with the same like mindset and same work ethic as everyone. Which is
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying it now. Waking up, go recovery, go
So-
beach, go train.
Just touching a little bit on your Cali skills. You're very advanced. I'd say you're the handstand specialist.
I wouldn't
That's
say I'm
your
like
specialty skill.
too specialist, but I'm fairly like well versed in it. Like I'm pretty good at it, but I wouldn't say I'm super good yet.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have better one arms than me and better strength with push strength. But I feel like
yeah.
all round around handstand, I feel like I'm all right in that. I'd say it's one of my strong aspects.
Yeah, I would
for sure.
say all round in handstand, your balance, the ability to do it from
dumb places.
high heights.
Also, the
Dangerous
width
areas.
is like so impressive as well. When
Yeah.
you do like those push sets with like super
Yeah.
wide grip, is
Or the jump
crazy.
handstands.
Mm.
They're good fun.
Tyler's crazy. Instead of just doing calisthenics where you have handstands, which is considered scary, he does dynamics. He does cliff jumping where he's throwing sukaharas. And then he's just got this crazy
I have an
flair about
adrenaline
him.
problem.
Yeah, adrenaline junkie.
I would
That's
say
what
Tyler's
you
my dynamics buddy because we
Yeah.
would go to Bondi and one of us throws a set and then the other person just goes, all right, now I've got to throw down a set.
Well, this
as
is
well.
how it
And we just
normally go.
compliment each other. And set after set, we just challenge and level up and yeah, it's good.
Well, I haven't even really gotten to see like what you're fully capable of. Well, because
I am injured.
you are, you're injured
Both
a
of
little
us.
bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you as well, with the shoulder. And although you've been saying like yesterday that was starting to feel a bit better.
And yeah, I reckon end of this week, maybe next week, I'll be good to send some dynamics.
Wait, we're all out of action for dynamics. My foot, your lat, and your shoulder. You haven't even
Yeah.
seen us do any like tricks
Yeah,
and
you
stuff.
have never seen anyone do like a swing on the bar or a
Bro,
360
true,
or nothing.
that's
Back
actually
in
true.
our Olympic day prime, like We
We
were
were fiends for it.
sending it, cuz.
I've seen a video on your Instagram at Bondi, which was crazy, bro. Like some of the sets, like the tricks
He
you
would
did in
throw
the set.
similar shit like
Yeah.
at Bondi as well.
Sick.
We all have like slightly
Bro,
different styles.
not to
when we do
brag,
it.
but you should have seen me at my prime just sending it at
absolutely.
You were doing like
Yeah, this guy's
I
miss it,
crazy.
bro. I
You can,
miss
it
it so
makes
bad.
perfect sense why he broke his ankle. The shitty, he wouldn't even warm up. He'd jump up and do like a 4-piece combo of the craziest fucking moves.
my favorite is
Just
your
over
front
hard
flip re-raps.
ground, no mattress or anything.
It's the high ground front flips. For
I
me.
was always worried about the bloke, and then boom, next thing you know, no surprise.
I love the video of him just like smacking the green whistle when he was like just laying on the backpack
Yeah.
after he broke his ankle.
Yeah, and
And he was just like, yeah.
That was my first time on any drugs. I think I was mentioning to Blake, I don't like being high.
yeah,
it's
he's
just a
like, I
weird
want to be
feeling.
sober.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in pain.
And like that's the thing though. I don't know if
sober.
people know. Like, so you've never even had. Actually, both of you have never
Yeah,
even
me and
had a
Isaac
sip
are
of alcohol.
very
Never
much alike.
tasted it.
Never
yeah.
tasted alcohol. Never done any drugs. It's
Yeah.
And this guy's a party freak. He's been to clubs like all over the
Yeah, I
country.
went through Europe recently. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It
Where'd
was
you
a good
go?
Experience. I went to I started off in Italy. Went
Yeah.
to Rome. Then we went to Portugal in Lisbon. Lisbon in Portugal. Then we went to Spain. We went to Pamplona, did the bull runs. That was
Oof.
amazing.
Yeah.
Then we went to Barcelona. Wait, I think it was the other way around. Barcelona, then Pamplona.
Yeah.
Anyways, then after that, we went to Croatia, Belgium, and then I left my mates and went through a Kentucky tour through Greece,
Damn.
which was a lot of fun.
I've heard people literally die at those bull runs.
Yeah.
That's like
The balls didn't chase
Why-
Tyler.
that's what
Tyler
people
chased the
Yeah, I
balls.
chased the bulls.
I'm not.
That's why they were
surprised.
running. I was behind them all, running
He
behind them.
HSPU'd on him.
Yeah.
That's it, right on the horns, bro.
Yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, but literally, like one of my friends was telling me, like people literally fucking
It's actually
die.
very controversial.
Yeah,
A lot of animal rights activists aren't a fan of it,
I'm sure.
which
they
I completely
have a field
understand because
day,
they do slaughter the bulls at the end of it.
Oh,
and the
really?
races and stuff with the bullfights, but not a lot of people like that these days. But
Mm.
the bull runs and stuff isn't too bad. It's more in the evening when they do have the bullfights.
Yeah, I can tell the bull doesn't like it.
Do you get to eat the bull after?
Yeah, I believe they do auction it off. Like you can buy parts of the bull.
Right.
Like they don't just do it and put it to waste. I think back in the day it was more they were killing it for food
Yeah,
and they just put in a show for it. And now, yeah, people do still buy it. I believe, which is like it isn't a waste, but still,
Different countries, different cultures.
yeah, very much so. But yeah, that was my Europe trip.
there you
really
go,
enjoyed it.
man.
You basically
And
got
the
a-
whole Europe trip. Sorry to cut you off, bro. Whole Europe trip, no alcohol.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Crazy.
Just caffeine, a bit
Wow.
more caffeine, power nap and some caffeine.
yes, sir.
And
Oh.
no sleep.
Caffeine, eh?
Yeah,
Hell of a
sleep's
drug.
optional. Sleep is
Yeah.
optional.
And a double summer, so you got to go.
Yeah,
cliff
I did get a
jumping in
double.
2
I missed
seasons.
winter here. It was pretty good.
Yeah,
Came back, it was warmish weather.
To be fair, we had a good winter this year. It was actually not like that
Wouldn't know.
bad.
Wasn't here for it.
Sorry, mate.
Living it
Yeah.
up.
Not a big fan of winter, eh? I like
No.
summer. I like
Yeah?
a hot.
Yeah,
Yeah. Shirts off.
that's it.
That way.
Nah, what I missed most about when I was in Europe was actually training. We had a chat about this earlier at dinner tonight. How I think we were informing you about my trip about 2 weeks in. I wanted to leave Europe. No, I wasn't going to physically leave Europe, but I was missing training with the boys, seeing all you guys' stories.
You missed having those people with that same mindset,
Yeah.
with the same interests. Because, yeah, when you're together, you can be doing anything and life is just more fun. You'll push each other and you'll grow.
100%. Yeah.
Like I enjoyed going out with all my mates. Don't get me wrong, I really still had a really good time, but I still wanted to just be doing what I wanted to be doing, which was training and working on all of this stuff.
it was crazy. We didn't get to see you for a good part of like 4 or 5 months.
And then I came back and you guys left like the day
Yeah,
after.
so we didn't see you for 3 months,
Yeah.
and then you came back and I saw you for 2 days, and then we went up for a house inspection at Burley Heads, and then we saw you for a week, and then we didn't see you for 2
I saw him
months.
for like 2 days and then we moved.
Yeah,
No, so you guys
yeah.
had the inspection beforehand and then you moved up full time when I got back. So I saw it for 2 days and then you disappeared, I'm pretty sure. And then you came back a week after for a weekend, I think.
Oh yeah. Came back from the inspection,
Yeah.
saw you, then moved back up. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, yeah, long time.
And then 2 months later, I came back up.
How are you finding Burley? You also got to mention what your favorite thing about Burley is on the podcast, and
My
why you hate Sydney.
I don't hate Sydney yet. You guys keep telling me I will
Jeez.
eventually.
Give it time to
Jordan's a
marinate.
massive hater.
I can't stand the place.
Yeah.
I still do love Sydney. Got a lot of friends and family there, a lot of connections there. But I am enjoying Burleigh, especially with this lifestyle that we're living, where we just work during the day, train, recover, work more, train, recover.
It's sick. You're in a household with your best mates, business partners. You're working together from home. On lunch, you can go just walk down to the beach if you want.
Yeah.
Train whenever you like.
And it's very different from what I
beautiful.
was doing in Sydney, as I was working in the trade industry as a tradie. And it's just the hours are so different. I do miss it a little bit because working on with your hands a bit more. Like now I am sitting down at a desk all day.
You probably feel a bit useless right now. Like with this in a new industry, considering you've been a tradie for what years? You finished school, went straight into being a tradie. You've done that for years.
I don't
and
feel
now,
useless. I just feel I'm a beginner again.
yeah.
Because I am still learning,
Yeah.
but I don't feel necessarily useless because I know I am in that learning phase of this new job.
Yeah.
But
Definitely
yeah,
worth there's a massive adjustment to as someone who's both as well had like physical labor jobs and sales jobs where it's you're behind a desk. Like there's definitely a I'd say like a subconscious toll that it takes on you, like mentally, where you're like, there's something about, even if it's not an enjoyable job or it's a strenuous job, when it's like physical, there's something that still, I don't know, it's like satisfying, or it's, you just like, you get into that mentality of like pushing through. Whereas like, yeah, desk job is more of like a mental battle, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did enjoy my last job. Like I really did, especially when I did finish it up. I was getting to quite a good role and position there, which was very nice. So it was a sacrifice I had to make in order to try and make this work.
It was for the greater good.
Yeah, short term sacrifice for long term game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I could say without hesitation that the last year that I've been in finance now for about a year, and I would say not once have I ever thought it was more strenuous or more difficult or more exhausting than what I was doing before. Like PT was far more difficult, I found, for me. Like the fact that I can just work from anywhere, I can sit down all day and I just have to talk on the phone. Like I'm laughing. Not once have I thought, oh man, this job. Like at times it can get repetitive, but not once have I thought, man, I can't do this anymore. Because I knew as a PT, I was waking up at 4:30 every morning for 6 days a week. Like that is, to me, that's far more strenuous than any stress it will go through, in the job that we're working. That's why I also find, and I can relate to say, tradies, because you guys wake up really early as well.
Yeah, I'm
And
enjoying
that's-
sleeping a bit more.
Yeah, big time. And I was a PT for like almost 2 years. Not once did I ever get used to waking up early. Every morning was a struggle.
You get used to not sleeping. So I think I still am. Like we still wake up pretty early. Like it's not pretty early, but 6:30. We go do our ice baths. Or go to
Yeah,
the
that's
beach.
a good time, man.
But
Like
just that extra hour or two makes a big difference.
huge. I reckon like the difference between waking up at 6 and waking up at like 5:30 even. I don't know, like any earlier than 6 and it starts to get a bit rough.
Do you
for
think
sure.
you can change your sleep pattern? Because I used to sleep at 4 a.m. and wake up at 1 p.m. But like moving up to Burleigh, I now do 6 a.m. wake ups and sleep at 12. And I've noticed no change. But do you think
100%.
some people would just find it more difficult than others?
Yeah.
Well, I used to have a night owl routine as well. I did overnight shifts when I used to work in traffic control. Would start at 9 p.m., finish at 5 a.m. And then like back when I was making music as well, everyone who makes music is like night owls in the studio. We get to the studio sometimes at like 10 p.m. People are still making tunes at like 4 in the morning. And then, yeah, waking up at like 2, 3 in the afternoon, it's like, it's a whole different sort of world that you live in when you're on that sort of time zone, I think it's like, it's cool because there is cool stuff at night that you don't like. Yeah, it's like the night walkers, it's like different sort of atmosphere. But I think you can definitely change it 100%, if your routine calls for it, like you said, you've sort of changed it because not just because at one point you chose to sleep at those hours and now you're choosing to sleep at different hours, but like different jobs or different, people that you're around. And then if that calls for it, it can be done for sure.
Yeah, because I'm more creative past 12 a.m. which
Yeah.
what you mentioned as well.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just natural for someone to ponder more when it becomes
Yeah, like us 1 a.m. measuring this room out.
darker. Yeah. Yeah, like you just have those deep thoughts there at night.
Well, in the same way that like there's also less distraction, you know, like I think that's why a lot of people who
yeah.
make music like to do it late at night, because like not as many people hitting your phone up, like not really the urge to go outside because it's just dark. Like you just kind of in your cocoon and you just work away. So
I
think-
get that.
yeah.
I feel like I'd prefer to work at night just because I feel like I'm not wasting the day. When the sun's out, I want to be outside and enjoy the sun usually. So
Yeah. And I think that's where like a desk job can get a bit tough. Whereas like when you're on the tools or something, you know, getting out in the sun, getting your heart rate up, you know, got the esky, cold water, whatever, like, you know, it can be, it's like you feel accomplished at like a good hard day's work.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is a bit more rewarding in that sense. But I am enjoying the flexibility of this
Yeah.
style of job, which is completely different for me. Like I can during lunch, I can go to the shops and go grab something, or we can go down to the beach, or
kick back in between calls, have a bit of bants.
Yeah.
It's good.
You know,
Yeah.
we had banter at work all the time, but now it's just different because Isaac, you guys are just stuck next to me 3 meters for 8 hours of the day.
Yeah.
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 Literally just ice bath and then work,
Yeah,
then train, then work on social media or other stuff that you have to get done and sleep, repeat.
Mm. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
living.
it's like you've just entered a new world.
For sure,
Completely
yeah.
different.
I feel
Your
like
whole
I'm on
world
holiday.
is just
This is great.
change. Yeah, it's I love change. I love experiencing.
I've had a lot
new
of change.
things.
I've gotten rid of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To come
And
up
even
here.
an
it's so
outsider,
refreshing.
even an outsider to our lifestyle, such as Anthony, when they come into our lifestyle as well, then they change with us.
100%.
Yeah. Like you just achieved a new skill. the
We
other day.
did, yeah. We got
Yeah, you
first,
did.
first ever muscle up with the
2
boys.
muscle ups.
First
Two-
two, yeah. Exactly.
Two muscle
Man,
ups.
you got
yeah.
that so quick.
Yeah, man. Well,
Impressive.
like thanks to you boys again, you know, like literally since I got in here, first day that I landed, like, you know, you boys were training. I trained with you. We went to P3 the first day. We did the cold plunge. We, you know, started straight into it. And like, even I think Blake made a comment where like he noticed me physically in the span of like 3 or 4 days, just like changing, where there's like a bit more muscle memory coming back and just adjusting to stuff. And like, obviously there's only so much that can happen in that shorter period of time. And with the muscle up as well, I think like so much of it is a technique thing just as much as it is a strength thing. So, you know, having you boys to guide me through that was a big help as well. But back to your point, like even just living with you guys for the past week, you know, I'm so like gutted that I fly out tomorrow because the routine has been, you know, it's been great from like a physical aspect, a mental health aspect. We've been, you know, even at our jobs, like the numbers that I've put up, you've put up, that we've all been doing, you know, has been just going, like it's just been sort of moving up and up and up. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how, I mean, you've been here for a week. I feel like we've all known you for years. We haven't really known you for that long. I mean, we met
3
through
days.
work.
Yeah.
But you've been here for a week and, you know, you're adopting similar mannerisms to us now.
The humor is there. Yeah,
The humor, it's
The
like
lingo.
we just, everyone's just clicked.
Yeah, it's
And,
crazy.
it's
Even
pretty-
Tangy
it's
made the
pretty
comment.
cool.
He's like, it's like a click too well. You know what I mean? Like, we'll have a fun time. Like you said, like we knew each other from work, and you know, sure, like we saw each other here and there in the office, and maybe had 1 or 2 decent chats. And there was a part of me, in all honesty, that was like, look, like I know these boys, but I don't know them too well. Like, still taking a bit of a risk flying up and living with them for a week. What if it's awkward? What if it, you know? And then, like you said, man, like just bro, it clicked so well, and especially with you, Tyler, like didn't even get to know you back
Yeah.
in Sydney. Literally met you on Saturday, which is 4 days ago, and man,
Yeah, as soon as you're with the boys and you're making all the same jokes and everything, I was like, yeah, he's cool.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
sick.
he'll survive. He'll survive.
It's sick. And like you know, we've been talking about, like, I think we've shared a lot of the same struggles. We have a lot of the same mentalities when it comes to certain things. So like, there's kind of a thing where it's a bit of like a pre-selection.
Yeah, like
We've
a mutual bond.
Yeah, it was a mutual bond. Like, it's kind of like there's a reason that I got along with these boys and that you got along with these boys, and then the odds of me and you getting along are just like kind of a given, you know. So it's so cool just to watch it all happen, for sure. And man, I know I'll definitely be back up. I don't know when exactly, but I know for a fact it's not the last time in Burley for sure.
So the last time we had you on, couple of days ago, whenever that last one was.
Yeah.
You were spitting some pure wisdom. It was great.
Mm.
We loved what you had to say, and you're pretty
Thanks, man.
pretty
Men can
well spoken.
converse.
You can tell you're quite extroverted.
Thank you.
You guide a conversation and put context very well when you want to lay you know what you're trying to say. But I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
what's your main drive?
This is wow. Okay, this is a good question. Are you talking about just in life? Like
What
overall?
gives you a reason to keep going, and what
Yeah.
Why do you want to be better? Why do you want to keep working on yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I gotta if we're gonna go into this, I gotta pull deep. Like this is gonna go.
Let's do it. That's what we're here
Dig
for.
deep.
Let's go, man. Why? I've always been obsessed with wanting to succeed and wanting to get better. When I was young, like my parents didn't have the best marriage, and they separated when I was 3 years old. And so, basically, after that kind of happened, like I would see my dad kind of every second weekend, every second week, like, and I still have a relationship with him, and we're still still good like that. But he got remarried. He like had another son who's my half brother, and I treat him like my brother. Like there's no love lost or anything. My dad was always kind of good for the most part. My mum, she really like took it upon herself to just be the best mother she could and dedicated everything she had to me. Every dollar, every bit of time. She would like work full time, and it was tough. Like I went to 2 different primary schools, 2 different high schools. We went from like moving out when my parents lived together. She had her own place. It got broken into. Then like stuff went down south. We like moved back in with my grandparents. Then like from there we moved in with my auntie. So like I just kind of watched us always bounce around, and there was a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And like thank God I never went without food. I never went without shelter. I don't try and like, I guess, mock it up to be more of a like a violin, sad story than it is. But throughout that whole process, like I watched my mum just go through so much. Like when you're like 13, 14 and you witness your mum getting like emotional because she literally doesn't know how she's gonna like take care of the bills and stuff. I always say this, like if you've always come from a pretty good, mediocre, like 7 out of 10 life, then there's not enough pain driving you to go for more than that. And you've had enough pleasure to just be content with like maintaining that. But when you come from literally like always seeing the presence of financial struggle as like a main theme in your life, you don't ever sit back and say, oh, you know what? I want to go from all of this to like just a nice small house in the suburbs with like 3 kids and a Toyota. You're just like, I want to come for everything. Like I want so much that it's going to absolutely make these days feel like a joke. Like I want and so I think that was from an early age where it came from. Like I had a lot of stuff that I wanted to prove. And I just remember like, just wanting to take care of me and mom. And I guess like from that, I started really getting into a lot of like self-help stuff. And from the age of like 13, I was in the gym. Like, I don't know. It's funny. Like, I feel like some of this stuff you can't really teach. When I was 13, I still remember like I was in like year 8 in high school, and we had a school gym, and like they would have the gym open for anyone who wanted to use it from like 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then the school bell would ring at 8:35. And so I would literally get up at like 6:15. It would be so cold. I would like pack my school bags into just like a plastic grocery bag and tie it in a knot. And then I would just walk up, catch the bus. Like no one was going to school at this time, train for an hour before school. Just like, I don't know, there was just something you wanted to get out of you. So in terms of what drives me, I think like, just like wanting to take care of loved ones. And then I think in the same way as well, like I look at it in both ways. I want to take care of, my mom and my family and people who like helped me from generations before. But then I also have such a chip on my shoulder when I think about one day when I have kids, how much I've experienced, like growing up with divorced parents as an only child, not having siblings to grow up with, not having parents under the same roof, there's a part of me that's like, I'm going to do whatever I can do to make sure that like they don't have to experience this either. And so, yeah, just I don't know, wanting to like correct it. I guess
Yeah.
that's kind of how I look at it. Yeah, just wanting to correct it. And so that's kind of where it comes
like you
from.
don't want your children, for example, in the future to go through things that you had to go through.
Yeah, because I feel really blessed, man. Like I really feel so grateful from where I grew up and what I went through to, you know, like where I'm at now, and the fact that I never turned to self-harm or suicide. I never turned to drugs or addiction. I never got into a lot of, you know, like I had a couple fights here and there throughout school. You know, we had some scraps, but like I never was like repetitively getting into violence. I never got into crime. So like even just for me to kind of beat all of those odds to finish high school, you know, like if you look at statistics on like, you know, boys who are raised by single mothers, like the chances of them being criminals, not finishing high school, not going to university, not ever like earning a certain amount, it's like the statistics skyrocket. And so, yeah, I think that's a big part of it as well. Just like, like wanting to make sure that they have like a little bit more of an advantage in life. And as I get older, I think more and more about like being a parent and like being, because you realize shit when you move out, you're like, holy shit, like I am struggling to do all this stuff just for me.
Yeah.
And my mom did this like for herself and for her kid by herself. So I was like, that's like your
not easy.
appreciation just gets big. Yeah. As you
Yeah,
get older. Because when you're a
absolutely.
kid, you don't know any different, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Someone actually asked me today, and what you were just talking about reminded me. They asked, what motivates you? And I said, pain and struggle.
Yeah.
I think that's what
So-
motivates a lot of people.
I think if you get stuck in a position where you're not feeling any pain or struggle, but you don't love your life at the same time, you're at this point. It's known as the region beta paradox,
Yeah, I've heard of this. Yeah, it's amazing.
where essentially your life isn't shit enough that you want to actually do anything about it.
Yeah.
But it's also not the best. So you're kind of just in this limbo land where you don't really do anything, but you can kind of coast through life and it's not the worst. I think that's probably worse off than being in a position that's terrible, where it actually instigates
100%.
some action from you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think, the struggle is something that's beautiful. I think it's one of the greatest gifts, because
definitely.
it drives you to accomplish. It can drive you to accomplish some pretty big things.
I
or at
think
least
anyone
try
that's
to,
been very successful has struggled a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what gives them a lot of drive.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, and I think that but that's the irony, right? Like, and this is something that I'm trying to look out for. Like, I remember Kevin Hart was speaking about this on a Joe Rogan episode, and he was saying how, like, you know, him and Joe were basically going back and forth saying how, like, the coolest, the nicest, the best people, most successful people that they ever met had the most fucked up upbringings, right? But then they were saying, like, you know, and both of them, they came from hard starts. But then they were saying about, like, with their children, you know, Kevin Hart was telling this story. He took his kids back to like the apartment block where the apartment was that he lived in with his, you know, with his parents and his grandparents when he was a kid. And he took his kids there, and like they're young, you know, and he's like, yeah, like, you know, that's the building that we used to live in. Like that was the apartment, you know. And the kids were like, wow, like you lived in this building? He's like, no, like not the whole building, you know what I mean? Just that apartment, you know? And they're like, oh, so like grandma lived in that one and you lived in that one. And he's like, no, like all. And then he's like, in that moment, I realized like how detached they were from the world that I came from. And he was talking like he does all this stuff where like obviously takes him to like, you know, do martial arts and volunteer at like charities and that sort of stuff. Like, because it's such a struggle as well. The whole irony, right? Like you come from struggle, you don't want your kids to feel it, but then you also don't want to like spoil them. Yeah, you don't want to hand it to them.
Hot take here. When I have so I think the way I would raise daughters is completely different to the way I'd raise my
Sure,
son.
yeah.
But I would want my son to struggle.
I agree.
But at the same time, you know, there's good intentions behind it. I want them to learn values, but they're not going to learn really any values if everything's just handed to them. And say, for example, like when I was younger, I was given a lot of stuff and I was spoiled a bit in terms of actual gifts. And, you know, my dad would buy us heaps of toys, and whether it be BMXs or skateboards or scooter or video games or whatever it may be. But at the same time, he was also very strict and very harsh on us. So we were spoiled in a sense, but we also still went through a
Learned those
childhood that
values
was
and-
extremely
Yeah,
important.
yeah.
difficult and traumatic at times.
For
So
sure.
that's why I think the difficulty and the struggle
You need
there
it,
was
man.
what
Yeah.
actually made me become, someone of substance rather than
Yeah.
just someone with no real purpose or
Yeah,
value behind
definitely.
their life.
Definitely. There's so many like dark moments that I can like think back to, and like they're those kind of gifts that like whenever you need that push, like because this is the thing as well. You're talking about the region beta thing, and it's funny, right? Because like now I'm at a stage in my life where, look, by no means am I rich, am I wealthy? I'm not there like yet, but I'm at a point now where I can happily say like my rent's covered. I don't need to think about it. If I need to go out for a night at a restaurant, I don't have to worry about tapping my card. Like I know it's covered. And that can almost sometimes like start swaying you into the region beta kind of concept where it's like, you're like, oh, well, like, I could kind of keep doing what I'm doing. Life is pretty cruisy. But then you got to be like, nah, like, we're not like, it's that saying, yeah, I think it was like this Drake song or something recently, but he was like, I didn't come this far just to come this far, like, and there's so many levels to it. And I think I was thinking about this today. I was actually journaling just on this couch like a few hours back. And I remember having this thought where I was like, the better I get, the more I realize how much better I need to get.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it's crazy how it works, yeah. But you got to do it in a way that's healthy. you
Yeah, it's
know?
like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Literally, yeah, exactly right. And it's an interesting place to be in. I think the other thing that kind of like at this age as well is funny. There's so many things that shift in life, kind of in the natural succession of things, and one of those is from when we're born to a certain point, your parents are holding your hand down the entire path of life. Anything that you're typically stuck on and you need help with, essentially 100% of the time they had the answer. And, I've fully accepted in the last year or so that I've gotten to a point in my life now where neither of my parents have the capacity to help me forward from this point. Like they can love me and support me, but they don't actually have the tactical knowledge to guide me, whether it's like in a business sense or whether it's, and in some instances now they're coming to me for advice. And I think like it's something that needs to be embraced, but it's also something that puts a bit more of a fire underneath me to be like, okay, like there might be that little part of you that wishes you could run back to being a kid and shed yourself of all the responsibility and just, you know what I mean? There's that part of you that always wants to be like, nah, like I don't want to do this, but I think like it's like the whole cold plunge thing where it's like, you just need to embrace it and go straight into it. Be like, no, all right, I'm not going to chase going back to being a kid because that's never going to happen. So instead, a better thing for me to look at chasing is being such a beast of an individual that I can be that guy, like if mum needs something, if dad needs something, if my family, my brother, friends, whoever, I think that's a big motivator as well. And I'm not going to lie, like part of it probably comes from ego. Like there's probably a part of it that definitely...
You need a little bit of ego, in my opinion.
There's definitely a part of
little
it
bit
that
at
stems
least.
from that, for sure.
Some more than
A
others.
little bit of narcissism is healthy, I think.
Yeah, you like that one.
Yeah, yeah. Keep telling yourself that, Jordan. No, I get where you're coming from, man. I agree. Like I would be lying if I didn't say that any of my motivation for success wasn't like slightly ego driven. But I try and remind myself that like people don't care about you or watch you as much as you think they do.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably a big one.
Yeah, like I'm sure, at least for us, like I don't necessarily think I have an ego, but at least I can speak on probably on most of the Cali boys. We do like to show off a little bit when we do our stuff.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily do it for like, hey, everyone look at me. We're just very like proud of what we have accomplished when we do it.
Yeah.
For some of the stuff we do, we're like, it's not easy. So when we do it, we're like, hey guys, it took a lot of hard work.
100%.
What we're doing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to be a little bit show-offy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, we do like to put on a show.
And you know what, man? Like at the end of the day, right? Like I believe wholeheartedly it is so much easier to, all right, let's say Jordan's just, let's just paint an
Here we
extreme
go.
picture here that Jordan one day is just like being extremely sort of boastful and going
One
on
day.
about how much of a beast he is. And, he's
Wasn't
just
that
this,
this today?
yeah, this is about 30 minutes ago. Anyway, but
Sounds
let's
about
just
right.
say like he's just, going at it, right? I think it's so much easier to pull someone aside who's doing that and get him to just turn it down by 5 notches, as opposed to professing this ideology of don't be boisterous, don't be disruptive, don't back yourself, don't put yourself out there. Because, bro, when you drill that into people, especially from a young age, you know how fucking hard it is to try and get them to actually start to turn the knob
It's hard
up.
to break those old habits.
Bro, it is so hard, Whereas, like, if someone's being a bit much, you can just pull them aside by the shirt and just be like, hey, bro, listen, just getting a little bit on people's nerves, just tone it down for a bit. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, fuck, sorry, man, I didn't realize I was getting there. Cool, sweet. And it's like easier to manage that. But to bring it out of people is so much harder. So I definitely think, it needs to be there to some degree. And like,
Yeah.
especially like with entrepreneurship or content creation or that sort of stuff, we were talking about, me and Tangi were talking about this the other night. Like, you need to have a contrary mindset to the general people. Like, if you just think about it from a fundamental perspective, you look at the mindset of an employee. You're constantly seeking permission and validation, and to be told that you've done a good enough job to pass the bar, right? You're constantly expecting your employer to manage things like annual leave, so you get paid when you want to take your holidays. You expect them to manage your expectations of what's your tasks that you're assigned to do for the day, right? You want to go into content creation or you want to go into entrepreneurship, and all of a sudden you have to start deciding for yourself, hey, I have something of value. Like, you're essentially professing that I know something that you don't. So I feel enough of an urge as a result of that to create content about it to help other people, or I believe that what I'm making is so valuable, whether it's a course, whether it's a product, whatever it may be, a
should pay money
service,
for it.
that you should hand me money for it. That's narcissistic in and of itself, right? Like, to some degree, I think that, it's things like ego and cockiness and overconfidence. That was one I got slapped with all the time, was being too overconfident. But like, these are things that are just so freely tossed around.
You would rather be overconfident than under, and it's so frowned upon just because the higher powers want you to stay in line.
100%. Yeah.
So it's this echo that's really just a lie.
Yeah. Oh, for
to
sure.
Keep you
it
in
is.
line, which
Yeah.
can, I guess, lead into our next discussion.
Where do you want to go with this, Jordan?
Where's this going?
Let's go.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on the system, the school system?
On the school
and
system
just-
specifically?
Yeah, we can start with the school because that can lead into many things.
The school system's built to create workers, not thinkers. I think the school system is like hugely outdated. And I think it's important to preface any of this conversation with, the understanding that whilst we talk about this in the way that we talk about it, it's also impractical to
Do it the other way.
have a system that designs everyone to be entrepreneurs
Yeah.
and everyone to be business owners.
You need the
right?
workers.
Yeah. And I also think that a lot of people are too extreme with the other perspective that, we probably lean towards, which is, that everyone who's a 9-to-5 worker is miserable. We were just talking a second ago that you weren't upset on the tools. You were enjoying, like, there was aspects of it that you like. So I think, there's a real kind of like black and white take on, some of these like online gurus. It's just like, you're a slave, you're in the matrix. Some people like, bro, I'm happy like doing my job.
And
you know
it is
what I mean?
fulfilling doing jobs like that.
Yeah.
Like, even all my mates, every day now and again, you
For
have
sure.
a bad day at work and you're like, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
But all the other days, you still have a good time.
100%.
Get it all done, feel accomplished at the end of the
Yeah.
day, and you get paid.
Definitely. And my gripe with the education system, why I think it's flawed, and like, I am not 100% coming up with all of these ideas myself. Like, there's things that I've read on this that I like to pull from and that sort of thing. But like, in terms of just the general mindset training for it, right? Like, put your hand up to speak, okay, cool. Well, there needs to be some degree of order in a classroom, but oftentimes, like, it doesn't necessarily invite people to be, I guess, contributive to, you know, the class discussion.
It doesn't allow critical thinking.
It doesn't allow critical thinking, but I think I think the biggest flaw that I've picked up on it is the way that it encourages binary thinking, like ones and zeros. So the thing is, like, I'm going to hand you a question on a piece of paper. There's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. And in life, whether it's business, whether it's content creation, whether it's picking a girl who you want to be with, like, there's never a black and white, right and wrong answer ever. It's like, what's the most correct answer? What's
Or even
you
what's
know?
the least wrong answer?
Yeah, there's always stuff on a spectrum in that sense, right? And so I think that's my issue with it, is that it teaches you there's only one right answer for a solution. It teaches you to work independently. You know, there's like nowhere near as much cooperative work as there needs to be in school systems. And I think it just teaches you, like, the other thing as well is I just can't believe the older I get and the more I get into things like entrepreneurship, and not even entrepreneurship, man, not even if you want to own a business, like just the shit that you need to do as an adult that gets left out is fucking mind
Especially
blowing.
with money.
Like, they don't teach you anything about tax and how to, even like if
I
you
still haven't
don't,
done my taxes for like 3
bro,
years.
even if you don't want to like own your own business and have an ABN, cool. But like, they don't even teach you how you can learn to minimize your personal tax return, you know, to what can be like deducted as a tax expense. They don't teach you how to sign up and register for an ABN. They don't teach you about like interpersonal skills and communication and body language, like all these things that are so much more applicable as opposed to like, you know, pathetic fallacy or Pythagoras' theorem or like, you know, all this kind of stuff that I don't know. It's just, yeah,
They also don't even give you the option to learn that.
that's
which
the
is the
thing.
thing. Which
Yeah.
I think, like, if they had a course or a subject that was somewhat related to any of those topics,
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a little bit different. But there's nothing at all. All the topics
For
are
sure.
all learn enough, go to uni.
Yeah, yeah, and why I think like I think we're actually in the middle of a massive reform, and it's a pretty exciting time, to be honest. You know, when you look at e-learning as an industry, it's like it is multiplying year over year. You know, the ability to actually learn anything you want to learn from professionals in that space for an amount that is a lot more affordable than, you know, not even university, but school tuition. You know, it's so cool, man.
And a lot more valuable, I reckon.
So much more valuable, you know, so much more valuable. So I think you know, there's a lot of flaws in the education system, but I think that also with the day and age that we live in now, with the internet and the way things are moving with like technology, as much as they might want to like, you know, indoctrinate you or push you through the system, it's actually never been easier to have alternatives either. You know,
Now's the time to branch out. Do what you want to do.
100%.
What are your thoughts, Tangy, on the school system?
Nothing.
Like,
much.
how
bit
did
of
you find
this,
it?
bit of
How
that.
did you find it?
School.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just train calisthenics most of the time.
What are you doing now? Training calisthenics.
I mean,
Most of the time.
if you want to know about like my experience in high school, do you hear that?
Yeah,
Beeping.
That's probably
Beeping.
my watch. I think it's in my
Oh.
bag. Sorry, guys.
Ooh,
Oh, all good.
how long's that going to be for?
I don't think it's
Oh,
showing
like
up on the
10
mic.
seconds.
Oh,
It'll
yeah,
It'll
right.
be done. Yeah.
Yeah, sick one.
Yeah. No,
It's a G-Shock. Sorry,
Yeah,
guys. Yeah.
I just went from year 7 to year 10, pretty much just playing games, and then I picked up calisthenics at year 10 and just grinded that out. I'd sit at the front of the class just so I could fall asleep, so the teacher won't notice. Because I'm
At the
right,
front.
yeah, because I'm right
Fuck.
under the nose, so they don't. expect it.
Bro's brain works in reverse. Goes, yeah, let's sit at the front and sleep.
Yeah,
Not the
Kinda-
back.
Did it work?
Did it work?
I've never been caught sleeping. I
Are
slept
you
in
like a
everything.
front middle, front corner type person?
Or like right
how-
in front?
Like teacher's there, I'm like there, like right next to them.
That was an extremely accurate diagram.
Yeah, so I'll be like underneath their nose
So-
and I'll just sleep.
Would you say you're not a fan of the system, the school system? Or you just,
Honestly, don't even know what the system is.
I just don't think it was beneficial to him.
I was
just
just
school in general? Do you think it's structured? Do you think it's structured well? Does it make sense?
I think you still
Like,
do learn a lot of key things. Like for me, I took out a
would you put your kids in school if you had kids?
I'm not having kids.
But that
Actually, yeah, you did say this the other day that you don't want to have kids, which I think is like each to their own. I just think it's it's an interesting thing when I hear people say
Super
that.
interesting.
Because I think like such an innate part of like the human existence is just survival and replication. Like you've got to survive and provide, and you got to replicate. And I don't think it's like stuff that anyone tells you have to do. I think those are two things that are like the most primal instincts for us to want to do. So when I see people who don't want to have kids, like I don't judge them. I don't tell them they're wrong. It's just very, very intriguing to me.
But I think it just shows how everyone's really different.
I'm keen as to have kids, I reckon.
Same.
Same here,
But
man.
I just want them to
can't
be
wait.
an absolute animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I have a bloke, if I have a boy, absolute machine.
I want you guys' take on this, man, because I think about this shit and like I don't know. This might open up a bit of a can of worms, but this kind of is something that really scares me, right? Like we're about to go deep right here.
Do it.
Finding the mother of your children.
That's hard.
Oofed.
Like this is something that I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if it's going to clear up as we get older. I'm not trying to generalize or whatever it may be, but when I go into social media, when I go into dating apps, even when I'm like out in public, I don't, maybe our standards are fucked. Maybe we're just, I don't know, but I see so many people and I'm like, and one of my favorite quotes that I ever heard is that the woman you marry, who's going to be like the mother of your children, you are marrying who your future daughter will become. And that's such a crazy way to think about it, that the woman you marry is who your future daughter will become. And then you look at it like that and you're like,
I don't want to marry a lot of these girls.
So how do you track that person? Do you have to just wait for them to come into your life, or do you go looking?
I think it's one of those things you got to wait.
I don't know, man. I for me, honestly, the thing that is like kind of, I guess like put a Band-Aid on it for the interim, for now at least, because I'm not in a rush to have a family within the next 10 years. Yeah, like for sure. But I think the thing that's kind of put a bit of a Band-Aid on it for me right now is just like, just keep working on yourself. Because the better you get, the more you'll be capable of attracting higher quality women.
Plus, I feel like for me, at the moment, I'm completely working myself. Girls are completely on the back burner.
Yeah.
I think it's because I think it would be very similar for all you boys here. We
100%.
want to make ourselves feel like we are accomplished. And we are ready. Like if you're not happy with yourself or the place you're at that point in time, I don't think you can be happy with someone else.
And that's the thing, man. Like my last relationship ended almost a year ago, and I haven't had like any sort of, casual or serious partners since. And it's been great because those 12 months have been some of the most incredible 12 months of growth that I've seen. And then but this is where it can get a bit dangerous, right? Because I become like, I live by myself, as you guys know, and I become so accustomed to my routine, like maintaining my peace in my space, loving the levels of progress that I'm achieving, that I'm like, do I really want to jeopardize this by bringing a girl into this mix?
Also, like, I haven't got time. I got to go this. I got to go do this.
Yeah, literally.
I'm the same. I can't justify the time anymore.
Yeah.
Especially at this point in time, it's like,
it's tough.
I think
could squeeze in time,
if you
but
can
I'm
find
good.
the right person, they can complement that. I think the average individual lets a woman take control of them, and
100%.
they allow the woman to be it's not even that the woman necessarily wants it or tries to, but I think the man allows his world to become his woman. I think
they just fold.
I think it's a terrible way to live. I think the man should have his woman always secondary to his purpose. But on the other hand, the woman, her man should be the center of her world, I think.
Yeah.
So it should be asymmetric.
Yeah, I heard a quote that just said like women need to be loved, but like men just need to be respected. And like, I don't know, I think that kind of makes sense because, like in a lot of good quality relationships I've had, even when it's just been like with mentors, not even like, romantic relationships, some of the times where like there's been someone else who's been the alpha in that relationship, like between say me and a mentor, and they can tell me things that I don't like to hear, that make me angry, that make me dislike them. But at the end of the day, if I know it's coming from a good place and they have the best intentions for me, then I still respect them.
Constructive criticism.
And it's still a positive relationship as a net positive. This, I don't know if this is going to sound maybe a bit misogynistic, but like I remember being in year 9, and shout out to one of my best friends, Jack, who I don't know where he came with this analogy from, but it was a brilliant way to look at it, at least through the eyes of a 14-year-old. And he was like, man, like I was reading this thing. It was basically saying like a relationship should be like this, right? Like you're on a highway and you've got your motorbike and a full tank of gas and a destination, right? And as you're going down, you might see a girl on the side of the road and she's like got her thumb out, like, wanting to hitchhike or something. So like you pull over and maybe she's trying to go wherever you're trying to go and you both have a similar destination in mind. And she can hop on the back of your bike. She can help you, guide you with directions, hold on to you, that sort of thing. And you both end up getting to where you need to go. And it's a positive outcome. He's like, where most guys fuck up is pulling over and like just giving them the keys and giving them the bike, and then they're the ones standing there with their thumb on the side of the road, right?
Yeah.
And I think that like, you see, and this is the thing, right? Like you do see a lot of instances where girls actually lose attraction towards the guy that they started dating, because when they started dating him, he was disciplined, he had goals, he had drive, he had a purpose and a plan. And then they witness in real time him sacrifice all of that and just become this softie that wants to like, just sleep together and stuff 24/7. And then they like kind of lose.
I feel like you need to have a
that.
balance between that. Yes, of course, you need to be loving to your partner and whatnot, but you also still got to be strong in your own aspects.
And the most retarded, but also the most beautiful thing about a woman, though, is the fact that what they say is content free. So you very rarely do you actually want to listen to what they're saying and follow what they say, right? Because what they'll do,
he doesn't even know.
This bloke.
but listen to where I'm going with this.
Jordan, this is Jordan's opinion. I'd just like to point this out.
Yeah.
They'll do this both consciously and subconsciously, but they will say things in a way to test your inadequacies, right?
Yeah, shit tests.
So
yeah.
And they'll constantly test those areas until you pass that test.
Yeah.
So that's why you should never actually listen to, well, not never, but a lot of the time what they're actually saying isn't what they mean, right? For example, if you ask them, oh, is everything okay? Yeah, perfectly. I'm fine, but they're not fine, right? They expect you to understand that. So
yeah, but
if you're truly meant for each other, you should be able to understand when she's not okay, but she's not going to tell you that she's not okay.
But
and if she has to tell you that she's not okay, well then in her eyes, you're not for her. So
no,
she's testing
I
your
get,
ability
to
to
like
really
understand
masculine
pick
and
up.
understand
yeah,
her
for sure.
feelings.
For sure. But I think in the same way as well, and this is more so like earlier on in the relationship, like women do a lot of like poking and prodding and like trying to actually see how much you're
take.
about it. Like for example, like where they'll do certain things where it's like they'll kick up a fight over something really petty, and they'll be like, no, like I need you to come over and like sort this out now, like that, whatever the thing may be. And a lot of people might read it on the surface and be like, oh, well, if I want to do the right thing and keep her happy, like I'll just do what she says, I'll go over, I'll fix a thing. But like they're actually kind of, if you kind of push back and you're like, yep, look, I told you, I've got commitments, I've got this business meeting, I need to attend to this, I'm taking care of X, Y, and Z, I'm free for half an hour at this time later this evening. If it's still a problem, I'll come over and sort it out then. Until then, please, I can't be distracted, I got to focus on this.
Yeah.
They're actually going to go away and be like,
I respect this man.
I respect this man. Yeah, literally. And I saw a TikTok about this today, actually, that was so funny, where it was like a girl talking to the camera and she was like, look, low key, all of us girls actually know that if a guy is in his early 20s and he's got nothing better to do but take you on dates multiple times a week, he is going nowhere. And it's so true. Like, we just don't have the time for it. Don't have the time for it. Literally, like
we shouldn't have the time.
Bro, we've been in this house for the past week. I don't think there's been a night where I've had more than like 6 hours sleep. We've been training every day. We've been doing recovery or going to the beach every single day. We've been working. Like literally, we had a 12-hour work day on Monday. Like, like.
So off the back of that, I wanted to ask, what do you think women find attractive?
Good question, man.
What traits? Any specific traits?
I think everyone's different. Like some women like a really focused, driven man that are working all the time and working hard and trying to get everything done. But then sometimes people really do like someone who can all the time give them that love and care that they want. I think it's.
I think as well, like different women are attracted to different things. You get women who are all about the status and the clout, and they don't give a shit what the quality of their relationship is like. They just, want to have a partner that is
High
like
value.
going to deliver
Everyone
that
wants.
lifestyle. Yeah.
But why, generally speaking, well, first of all, have you guys ever heard of the dark triad?
I actually looked into this very briefly because you and Blake told me about this, and
Super interesting.
What is it
Sounds
about?
very
I don't know.
mysterious.
You got to inform
But
me.
the dark triad, so it's 3 traits.
Yeah.
Right? So you got narcissism, Machiavellianism,
That's a big word.
and then you've got
psychopathy.
Psychopathy.
Yeah.
These
right.
are all big
So
words.
these 3 traits all together, they form the dark triad.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're just traits that women innately are attracted to. Whether they like it or not, generally speaking, most women will be drawn to these traits. Now, they're kind of negative traits, but I mean, when I say psychopathy, I don't mean like a literal psychopath. But compare someone, say, who... Psychopathy is essentially just someone who lacks empathy.
Yeah.
So, say if you're the person who lacks empathy compared to someone who's overly empathetic
Yeah.
as a man, generally, if you can have less empathy, it can actually help you in many aspects of your life. You can do the things that are hard to do. You can...
This is something that I've
even if you
struggled
have to
with.
sacrifice your own feelings or
Yeah.
sometimes sacrifice other people's feelings, you can make decisions. You can make those hard decisions.
Yeah.
But if you're overly empathetic, you care too much about hurting people's feelings, you're gonna struggle to say no. You're gonna struggle to have a bit of direction in your life.
It's so true. It's so true. And man, like, I really want to go in on this because this is something that I had to learn. I feel like a little bit later, like it didn't come as a natural trait to me. And because I did some reading, right? As a only child who was raised primarily, I don't say like I was only raised by a single mother, but for the most part I was. Like, had some involvement with my dad, but I would say that, my mom was more in the picture. Man, there was so many feminine traits that I picked up as a result of only being raised by my mother. And it did definitely make me more agreeable, put me more in touch with my emotional side. And I am thankful for that because I think that I have a level of like emotional depth that I got from that a lot of guys I meet, they're not as in touch with their emotional side for the most part. But another thing that I read, and this might actually help anyone in the audience who, was raised by a single mother, particularly if you watch them struggle. So Andrew Huberman, who, you guys may know who he is, he discussed about, in one of his podcasts, the neural pathways that developed in the brain between a child and their parents, right? Which establish the foundation for those relationships. They don't disappear or go away through adolescence. They get readopted towards romantic partners, right? And that's why you can see a lot of girls who had a shit dad date trashy blokes. You see a lot of guys who, had mothers who spoon fed them up into an old age, date women who just turn into their mothers, right? And spoon feed them for the rest of like the marriage. So I realized in some of my readings that because I grew up and I witnessed my mom struggle so much, I actually developed a trait and a characteristic where I would always give the benefit of the doubt and always see the good throughout the bad in women who had struggled. And so a lot of the girls who I, got into relationships with were girls who I kind of wanted to rescue subconsciously without even knowing it, And again, there's a part of that that's like potentially ego, as guys, we love feeling like a girl can depend on us and we can solve their problems. But another part of that is going back to what you were saying, where like, as much as people want to define those dark triad traits as bad, I actually had to get to a point in life where I started to learn to be a bit more callous and to be a little bit more disagreeable and put my foot down. And it's so, it literally, it is so important to have those characteristics if you want to be any form of a leader or any form of, it's a cringe word, but like alpha, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need them.
And I mean, we already touched on narcissism. I think a level of narcissism is
I feel like you need to have a little
important
bit.
to a degree.
A little bit for sure.
And then, Machiavellianism is essentially just the ability to be cunning and
Yeah, I didn't
manipulative.
know. I didn't know
Which
that word.
sounds very kind of negative, but to a degree, I guess similar to psychopathy, it's the ability to just have ultimate confidence in yourself and to have a path which whereby you can basically put your emotions to the side and do what has to be done to achieve a certain goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like women find a lot of comfort in being with a man who has that sense of direction, and he'll always put that direction first before any emotion or anyone else.
And going back to your Machiavellianism, like, I don't know if this is directly, in line with that trait, but I've actually witnessed this firsthand. Like, where I've had female friends or just girls who I've known who have been in relationships with guys that are the most toxic relationships.
time.
Like, these guys would drop kicks, like 1 minute they're like in trouble with the law, the next minute they're like abusive and having a fight, the next minute. And I'm like, from where I stand, like as a man who thinks, I guess, a bit more logically and, just can obviously view things from the outside, I'm just like, why didn't you run like 3 months ago? What is going on? But it's that constant upswing, downswing of drama and emotional roller coaster that, you know what? Like, I think that if it's between that with massive highs and lows and a guy who like punches in at 9 and clocks out at 5 and is like a piece of cardboard to talk to, but he's just always just cruising
That
at a
line,
5 out of 10, they go for the excitement. Like, these girls watch serial killer documentaries for fun on Netflix, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. They're like women are like waves, up and down, and they need to constantly be going through that. If they're too in between, they'll get bored.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you want to do.
the funny thing is as well, man, is that like, I think it's a byproduct of this kind of new way of thinking where, things like feminism and all this kind of, I guess, like progressive agenda who has like convinced women that, they shouldn't take advice from a man. They shouldn't question themselves. They shouldn't really take responsibility for their actions. Like if someone wants to judge them for being promiscuous, or if someone wants to judge them for starting an OnlyFans, or if someone wants to judge them for putting revealing pictures on their Instagram, it's not the girl's fault. It's everyone else's fault for being judgmental and for not being accepting, right? With some of the way that this is actually played out, like I've got girls who I've had on social media and known since I was younger, like 17, 18. And now I'm 23, right? And it was funny because I remember being like 18 and with some of these girls, wanting to try and like not necessarily go straight into anything serious, but at that age, maybe show some interest or maybe try and talk to them from a genuine place. And then they were kind of like, nah, too good for it, whatever, pushing forward with this kind of image. And then over the years, like I've only had 2 proper girlfriends my whole life. I haven't really had that many relationships. And I kind of have watched these people kind of go in and out of these relationships, keep upholding this image on Instagram, keep revealing more and more and more skin to try and collect more and more of the attention and the likes, and seeing just how far they can push it. And now I look at it and there's no resentment, there's no spite, but I'm like, it's such a negative spiral. It just kind of, I don't know, it keeps looping. And I just think it's a weird place that a lot of these girls are in, like where it's like, well, if I'm not going to get accepted, you just can't handle someone like me. And I don't know. I don't want to sit here like some sort of, person with an agenda or anything, but it's just like, I wish they had to realize that it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this kind of me versus you sort of thing. Not trying to shame anybody, but just maybe pivot a little bit just so that we can be on the same page a bit more. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a weird kind of, it's someone put it really well. It's like a positive reinforcement for negative behavior. Like you post a bikini picture and it gets more likes than all the photos that you were fully clothed in. So then
You want to post
you
more
want to post more of
to get
it.
more likes.
Yeah. And now you post one where it's like you're not even wearing bikini, you're just holding a towel up, and then you get even more likes. So they like it just
It
keeps
gets worse and
yeah.
worse and worse. Just snowballs.
Yeah,
Just
literally.
snowballs.
for sure.
Yeah, we always get more likes when we have our shirts off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not always by women though. That's you know all about that.
Men, but yeah.
Yeah, you two
know
and
what?
your adventures with
Boys on Instagram.
boys on Instagram. Far out. I didn't know. It was,
No idea what you're referring to.
Yeah,
Oh really?
man.
Untapped market.
That's it. Tangy just needs 2 words.
Hey, some older guys have a lot of money, boys.
Tangy and myself have been mistaken for being gay.
Yeah.
Gay
Understandable though.
Yeah.
The way that we act in public, I don't blame people.
Just shirts off and swinging off poles, bro.
couple. Yeah.
Sometimes we're a bit touchy feely too.
Of
That's
course,
all
always
part
a
of the
little
love.
bit that. A little bit of that is healthy.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's what makes boys get closer together as well when you're at that comfortable level.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how
Yeah.
comfortable we get after a couple months together.
I just come back and next time I
We're
fly
just
up
gonna
to
be walking around the
Burley,
house
it'll be
butt
for a
naked,
wedding.
Anthony, I want to ask you, what's your biggest takeaway from being here with us for the
Ooh.
last week?
Far out.
What are you taking back to Sydney?
There's
what are you going
so
to do?
many as well. That's the craziest
Where do
thing.
you go
Actually, no,
next?
you know what? I think I know what it is. We were talking about this so we just had a dinner before we came and did this podcast. We had some dinner and we went to a bar as well and we were
Nice
chatting.
restaurant.
And actually, you put it really well, Tyler. You had a great analogy for this. So when I was in Sydney, like throughout my whole teenage years, right? Like I think I mentioned on the last podcast that I had a YouTube channel when I was 14. You know, like I always wanted to try and make content, try and make videos. And where I grew up and the people I grew up around, although they may not have had, you know, like devious intentions or, you know,
They're just different.
trying to be dicks or anything, like they were just different. And so I copped so much shame and like, you know, embarrassment for trying to do that stuff, and always wanted to be around other people who were into making content or saw that kind of a path or a vision. And then as a result of that, you know, I would just get like this anxiousness anytime I pulled out a camera to even pull out a camera, because I was just waiting for someone to be like, oh, here we go. Anthony Dobrik is trying to come out again. You know what I mean? Like, and so coming up here to Burley and just being with you guys, right? Like, I knew there was a void where I didn't have like-minded people who I was running with in the same path when I was back in Sydney. Although I had friends and encouraging friends nonetheless, but they're on their own path and they're not trying to move into an entrepreneurship and content creation avenue as much, right? And I think I cared a lot more about what people thought. Having come here and having spent the week with you guys, just being so encouraged to not only pull my own camera out, but being around other guys who, you know, we went to a cold plunge today. You had your GoPro with you.
Yeah.
Like we went in the car the other day. You had the GoPro there. Like, you know,
Filming the setup.
you were
everything.
filming. Yeah. You had the camera on the tripod just while you were like putting your stuff in your room and moving into your place. Like just being around this, you put it really well. It was like, it was like sleeping with a 6 and then like convincing yourself that it was like, you know, it was good and like nothing was wrong. And then going and sleeping with a
relate.
10 and then
Go on.
going and sleeping with a 10 and then going back to the 6. And so I feel like having, you know, come from Sydney, been here, you know your 10s, mate. Don't worry. You don't need me to tell you that, all right? You got the guys in your DMs to tell you that. No, like, I think the biggest takeaway when I go back to Sydney, as simple as it sounds, man, would just be giving less of a fuck. Like going back, pulling the camera out, being like, I know what it's like to be around boys that are supportive, encouraging, you know, not awkward in front of a camera, not strange about things. Like, yeah, this is just what we do. It's just, you know, it's just part of the life. And to go back now to Sydney and just not be afraid, man. Fuck it. If I'm in a cool area and I've got a good outfit on, throw the camera on a fucking tripod and take a self-timer photo. If people want to walk past and give you weird looks, like, fuck them.
Yeah, I love that. That's so useful. The idea of just not giving a fuck. I
Yeah.
think it's important to practice on a regular basis, not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
do something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, but then remind yourself regularly that you don't give a fuck, and you actually, even if you have to lie to yourself and you know almost lie yourself into delusion.
Yeah.
Even if maybe you care a tiny bit, if you tell yourself enough times that you don't give a fuck, you will actually care less.
Big time,
And
bro.
and you'll find that eventually you actually don't give a fuck after a long
It's-
enough period of time.
One of the best things I ever watched, I don't know if you've seen these videos, is just like real life, like people are NPCs. And like it's this guy who wears like a GoPro, just like films like kind of subliminally on his chest, like a POV shot. And he just goes around and talks to people. And oh my God, it is the best thing you'll ever watch. He walked into a gym with like a bag of cookies and just goes over to the reception desk and it's just like, hey man, I'm just here to drop off a package. Can you please sign? And then the guy at the desk is like, oh yeah, sure. Signs the package, leaves it on the desk. And he's like, no worries, man. You have a great Tuesday night. And then he walks out of the gym and he's like, I just delivered a bag of cookies and got a guy to sign a clipboard for a signature. There was no shipping thing on the cookies. And I told him to have a good Tuesday night. He's like, it's fucking 9 a.m. on a Thursday. And he's like, no one cares. Like, people are not there. No one cares.
Yeah, man.
And like,
Stop playing with that.
there you go. Yeah. You realize that like people literally don't care. People aren't thinking about you 30 seconds after they pass by. Like, just
What,
do your
what you'll
thing.
notice as well is when you practice the art of not giving a fuck. Shout out to that book. It's a great
Mark
book.
Manson. Yeah.
But when you practice that art, people respect that. People see that and they actually almost like they respect that and they envy it. And
It's crazy you
Some will
mentioned him.
actually ask
Yeah.
or even say like, oh, I respect how you just do your own thing. You're
Yeah.
your own person. You're in your own lane. You don't copy anyone. You just do your thing, and that's inspiring.
Big time.
People get some inspiration from that.
I think it's important if you're doing that as well, but it's good to do it, but you got to do it where it doesn't affect other people because then you just become a dick.
Yeah, you don't want to do it at other people's expense. And I
So
think
there is a limit to it.
I used to make that mistake when I was younger. I feel like I've come into a good place where like, so when I was young, like I told you, so I'll never forget this. We had a year 10 formal and, we did like year 10 and year 12, right? So we had a year 10 formal and some of the kids in the leadership group, they did like these mock awards for people in our year group, right? Like just joking awards, right? And I literally got handed an award for most overconfident person. And everyone kind of like did it as a bit of a, backhanded compliment sort of thing. But I kind of understand why I got hated a little bit for it because you hit the nail on the head, bro. I did it at people's expense a little bit. I would think without speaking, and sometimes say things that could have been offensive without realizing they were offensive to some people or, doing things that might have created embarrassment for other people. And that's not cool. Like when you put it at other people's expense. And then I actually went through a phase in my later teens where I really kind of fell back into my shell. I let a lot of it get to my head. I was super kind of on the back foot. And now I think I'm actually coming back at it where I'm getting the confidence, I'm getting that art of not giving a fuck, but it's coming from a much healthier place, a much more socially aware place as well. I think that's cool. Yeah.
I think when it comes to the art of how Jordan's putting not giving a fuck, it's only impressive and people respect it when you yourself is the one that's suffering from the embarrassment or being out of place rather than putting it on someone else.
And when it's coming from a place of like genuine confidence, not a place of, like you were saying before, you guys, when you do what you do and you get looks and you get public attention,
It's a bit of both.
but you're not necessarily doing it from a place of like, everyone look at me, like just this self-absorbed.
Like realistically,
what I
we
mean?
would do
Like-
what we're doing even if there wasn't people watching.
That's it. That's
know?
it. And that's,
Like,
and
it
I
is
think,
it's just a
yeah.
bit more enticing when there is a crowd. Like we'll be training up one day, me and Jordan, and we'll look at each other. We're like, "No, we're not doing any dynamics today." And this group of people start to build up, and then we look at each other. We're like, one
Yeah,
set won't
of
hurt."
course, man. Yeah.
And then one set turns into another, and then another.
For sure.
But, Like even without the crowd being there, if one person jumped on the bar, we'd be like, "Oh, I'll jump on for a set."
Can't wait. I can't wait to send some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be
fun.
so good. No, for sure. No, man, it's it's awesome. I really enjoyed this side of like the conversations and talking a bit about kind of like, I guess, navigating life. It's a really interesting, very interesting topic to speak on. And I think that a lot of people talk about it from like, how do you go about getting a career underneath you? How do you go about getting like how do you go about like approaching women or talking to girls? Like there's these kind of niche fields where people go in on, but I think on a greater level, like just navigating life in terms of, managing your emotional state. And I think garnering social awareness is like a really big one as well. Whether it's between yourself and other peers, yourself and co-workers, bosses, if you're in school, could be teachers, knowing how to navigate those waters, I'd say, is probably one of the most beneficial things you can have, because working with people is the most valuable thing. Like getting people to work on your side is like, you can have money and put people on salaries and they can still fucking hate you and do a shit job.
Relationships are very important.
Yeah. Whereas like if you can get people to want to help you, it's a superpower. It's absolutely a superpower for sure.
Yeah, that's important to build a team as well in that aspect. When you are building those big businesses and companies, or just trying to grow as a human or as a person, like all of us, we're all working as a team together to try level up each other and ourselves at the same time, which is why I think we're excelling so quick in what we're wanting to do and getting it all done as quick as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Action, less thinking, more doing.
Yeah,
Something
100%.
Tangy is an expert at.
Yeah.
Bro's just got one shoe. That's all right.
That's it, mate.
Still love
Practical.
As long as he's doing. and
got one
not
shoe,
thinking,
one closet.
He's good.
I
One
love
spot
this
on the
bloke
floor.
right here, bro.
Look at this.
I've learned a lot this podcast.
Have you?
Yeah, I have.
That's good.
Yeah. Looks like you've been on another planet, but I'm glad you've.
Yeah.
Wait, what makes
Wasn't
you say
someone
that?
today saying that like they watched a podcast where he had the glasses on and they thought he was stoned?
Yeah.
And we're like, he is the last person
Yeah.
who would
We're-
ever be
we're
stoned
not-
on a
we're not those
podcast.
people.
Bro's just naturally. He's just naturally stoned, but
Chill.
in his normal
Naturally
state.
chilled, relaxed.
I'm just listening
Pondering.
and soaking in everything you're saying. I don't really have much things productive to add to the conversation, so I'm just taking it back. And
I got a question for Tyler. Sorry, not to cut you off.
no, it's all good.
Sorry about that. I feel like I kind of cut you off. I have a question for you, bro.
Ask away.
I know we were talking about this as a joke today. So when we were all in the cold plunge, we were talking about like how all the boys in the house like have an ick about each other, right? And we were saying like, a few other things about like Jordan and Blake and, Isaac and that sort of stuff, right? And we were saying like your ick is that you don't have an ick, okay? And while like that's all good and well, we've got a joke about it and whatever, right? Genuinely saying this, obviously I've only known you for 4 days, and I'm not saying this to like blow smoke, but you're like an extremely competent guy. And I think that's something that honestly was like very apparent to me from my first impression of you. Very, very competent in many, many aspects, whether it's like physical, whether it's being a handyman when it comes to the electrical side of things, even having like a decent knowledge about, like a business and content creation side of things, being like capable of emotional conversation, but logical conversation. Like, a lot about a lot, right? And whether you have like a, good family, good parents, good school, whatever the fuck it may be, you don't get to becoming someone of that nature without going through some degree of, seriously working on yourself. Jordan asked a question to me earlier, like kind of what drove me. I'd love to know a little bit more about like kind of what's driven you and what's your self-development journey been like, because I know you were telling me that you were not always this guy who was super ripped and in shape and could do the things that you do. I'm assuming you weren't always the guy who was capable of socializing and conversing the way that you do as well. So like I'm keen to
Very
learn a
much
little bit
so.
more about that.
Okay, I'll get into a bit about myself.
Go
then.
for it.
I think I could relate to you very much on a lot of your topics. I myself have grown up most of my life with a single mother.
Yeah.
I lost my father at a very young age. But the good thing about that was I actually had a lot of father figures in my life. So I actually got a lot of, like, more than one dad, which was very
That's
beneficial.
crazy you say that. Same
That's-
as me.
That's the way that I've looked at it. And
Yeah.
I've been actually so grateful with that. I love them all very, very much. And they're still role models in my life to this day.
Yeah.
So I got to take bits from each of them
Yeah.
and kind of put that to myself as a person,
Yeah.
which was very beneficial. And because I did lose my father at a very young age, I felt like I had to grow up very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
As being the eldest male in the family, you kind of get that or kind of get that feeling that you kind of got to be the man of the house.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's been a very big drive for me, just being you got to be able to do everything, you know.
Yeah.
That's just what
For
I had in
sure.
my head as the man in the house.
It's crazy.
Even though I can't
man.
do anything at that age, but it's just that feeling that I did get,
Yeah.
which I feel like has pushed me a lot. Especially seeing your mother struggle is always something that I think no one ever wants to watch or
It's
see.
tough. It's
But
tough.
it does motivate you. It really does.
Yeah.
And being well competent in everything, I think it's just very important to work on yourself. I take pride in it.
Yeah.
In like everything I do, because I think it is important that if you don't take pride in yourself, you're kind of letting yourself down, letting everyone else down, and you just don't grow at all as a person.
Yeah.
So for
No,
me,
for sure.
with all those things, whenever I figure out something, I need to learn something, I just jump on and start soaking up all the stuff that I can about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes me the way that I am with all those things. But
Yeah.
I think everyone does have flaws. Like, boys, I'm not perfect.
No, we
There's a lot
all
of stuff
do. Yeah,
that,
of course.
I do
Yeah.
need to work on, but the stuff that I do, I always try to take pride in it.
Yeah.
Try get it done. Like if someone can't do it, or I'll just jump in it.
That's crazy.
But I
man.
feel like I learned that from working in my previous job. You just got to get it done.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one of the biggest things I learned from being a Sparky. Just if it's not, that's the task. Jump in it. If you don't know how to do it, figure out how the hell to do it and get it freaking done.
I'm having a full spin out moment right now as well, man. Just to give you a bit of context. So, like, first of all, the thing you said about multiple male role models in your life, like, I've been fortunate to be in the same boat. I've had so many male mentors who, you know, have been like fathers that, one of them's not really still in my life anymore, unfortunately, but one of them is, and I think he will be until the day I die. But it's actually so crazy you talk about your father, man, because I'm not going to say his name, but I have a friend of mine who's a close friend from my group of mates from high school, and he lost his dad when he was 6. And he's actually the youngest out of the 3 kids. He's got 2 older sisters, and he's the youngest, but he was the only boy. So in the same sort of way, and this is going to trip you out even more, he's a Sparky.
Oh, I like him already.
Yeah, like he's Sparky, and I'm not making this up, man. And like, but same sort of thing, you know. Like I think, he did the same thing where he felt like he had to kind of embrace that role. And like, obviously, I didn't know about your father before this conversation, but I think it's like, it goes back to what I was saying before with the Joe Rogan, Kevin Hart thing. How like I knew there was kind of that deeper dimension to you when we met. I knew that you, like, as I was saying, you're super capable, and like. As with pretty much all the guys in this household, we're all pretty rare breeds, I would say. And again, there you go, like just learning about your father. It's kind of this, I don't want to say like an unfortunate thing, but just a reality of life that these people who seem to be exceptional individuals come from these circumstances.
I think when it comes to stuff like that, I've said this to a couple of mates and some very, very close friends that have been struggling with stuff. Rough seas only make good sailors.
Yeah.
Calm seas won't.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you're taking it too calm in life and too relaxed, you're not going to be a good sailor.
Yeah.
You got to go through those tough seas and see how to work it to get good at what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Then
man.
you can do the calm seas, and then when the tough times come, you can still manage to push through it.
And like there's no not to like kind of take it here, but like there isn't a life that's better than yours. Like J. Cole has that song "Love Yours," right, where he talks about it. But like, I've like I know my friend who he lost his dad, right? Like, even though my dad has still been in my life, and I want to make sure I word what I say here, not carefully, but just accurately, because he and I have like a very interesting relationship. I haven't spoken to my dad since the start of May this year. And, we just got into there was some stuff that went down in the family that we like heavily disagreed on. And I won't go into that. But, I've had major fights with my dad. I've had times where me and my dad have had great memories, and, there's been great times. But, it's funny because like, I think we don't realize, for the most part, how important male role models are to like younger males. And as I got older, I actually had to deal with a lot of this like resentment that felt like it almost came out of nowhere, because I felt like I was getting met with such struggle in life from trying to just keep my head above water. and feeling as though I was never armed for the situation. And then like this resentment came out of nowhere where I just started kind of blaming my dad for not teaching me so that it could be easier. But I think I realized that like there's nothing that comes out of that. You know what I mean? There's nothing beneficial that comes out of that.
I think at least when things get tough in my life, I just think if you can't change it, I really don't stress about it. Complaining won't freaking do anything about it.
100%.
If you can't do anything about the situation, why the hell whinge about it?
Yeah.
I think it's stupid, waste of time. Like, of course, I do get those thoughts when those situations do happen, but I just tell myself like
What are you going to do?
I tell myself good.
Yeah,
I like stress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm not going to sit there. If you're running late for something, don't stress about it because you're already late. You can't
Yeah.
get there any quicker than what you're already getting there.
Yeah.
Just sit down and just going to get there when you get there. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like I want to touch on this a little bit just because like obviously, you know, when I like do these podcasts as well, I try not to just think about things that I like talking about, but I also want to try and talk about stuff that I guess I would like to hear or audience may like to hear. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to lose a parent. Like, you know, I haven't gone through that myself as of yet. And but the thing is, you know, like with my friend and with yourself, obviously, you know, you've had to go through that, but you've done a lot of work on yourself, and you've had I guess the way I would frame it is like an uninterrupted kind of clean slate, in the sense of like, you know, understanding that person is gone, and you want to become someone who makes them proud and fully sort of step into that role. I guess where I'm trying to like speak on a bit is like for anyone who still has a parent in their life that is in some way like a bit of a toxic relationship. It's a bit of a different challenge, because then you get faced with this thing of like, well, they're still around and they're still my parent, and I still have to have something more or less to do with them. So it's not as simple as cutting them off, but I also don't want to stay too close, because in order for me to grow, I have to detach. And I think this is something that I struggled with balancing a lot. You know, it's not easy. And I think, I guess my advice would just be to try and create that distance and try and set the boundaries for that relationship, because like it, you know, obviously like not meaning this seriously or anything like that, but sometimes I would get to a point where my relationship with my dad would be so like constricting. It was so
Like choking you.
it was just choking the shit out of me, and like watching how much harder he would make my life through certain fights or through like stuff that he would pull. I got to a point where I was like, fuck, like it would just be easier if I didn't have to deal with any of this, you know? Like my life is hard enough as it is, trying to make it, trying to figure shit out. I just like, I don't need this on top of it. But I think in the same way, you know, like you said, if you can't do anything about it, don't complain about it. And one thing that you can't do anything about is other people's actions. I can't control how he's going to be or if he's going to change. You can only control what you do. And so I think as tough as it is, it built my character a lot to learn how to say no and put my foot down and build boundaries and set the terms of the relationship. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting sort of dynamic, but I think there's no price you can put on having like great male role models as a man. And if you don't have them in your life in person, then, you know, you can find them online as a bare minimum and listen to people, you know, whether it's Jordan Peterson, whether it's David Goggins.
Yeah. Like I don't think you have to know the person or they have to be there in your life, but as long as you have a good idea of the people that you do look up to. Like I look up to all of those men that have helped raise me, and that's what makes me want to be like them. You know? Take those aspects from each of them and put it into me as a person.
Yeah.
As long as you pick out those good bits and you see what good characteristics they have, and you kind of add it to yourself, you could do the same with any role model. That's like with anyone, when they have a role model, they look up to them and they want to take those pieces of that person and put it into themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man, for sure.
That's the whole point of it.
100%. Like even when I didn't have anyone in the space, like I was still watching like, Gary Vee. I was watching a lot of like, even I remember when I was like young, man, like a young teenager, I used to just search up like motivational videos on YouTube.
That's how I got into calisthenics, by the way.
There you
I
go.
still do.
Yeah.
Such up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was like, the whole scene of Rocky is not about how hard you can
Yeah.
hit. Like,
and then you start doing push-ups
yeah,
in your room at
yeah,
2 a.m. in the
yeah,
morning.
You're just like doing push-ups while you're crying and shit. Like,
I got a
Do a
question.
couple sit-ups.
please. I thought you'd never ask.
I know I don't talk much. It's nothing much for me to say, but I've always wondered at a young age, how do you find like a mentor or like someone to look up to? I know that probably in Sydney, I've been a mentor to most
Yeah, you
for
have,
calisthenics,
definitely.
but I've never really had anyone to kind of work off, or no one's ever given me advice. My dad is kind of just there to put food on the table and to make sure I do my homework. But after high school, just freeballing it, figuring out everything just by looking at what needs to be done, at the problems that are in a specific industry and solving for it. But it would be really good to find a mentor. Like, how would people find like a father figure? I don't know.
I think if you're trying to look for someone to look up to or have guidance, for example, if you're looking in the area that you want to look into those big people in those areas and try to just find someone that you can kind of relate to, which is always beneficial. Like if you can see someone that's gone through a similar scenario as you or struggled with looking for that sense of guidance and they can provide that, I would just maybe if they're not too big, reach out to them, or if not, just start copying what they do. Just listen to all their stuff if that's the guidance you want. Like if they say, go do this, give it a go. They've made it to the position they have in that industry from doing those things. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to take their advice.
Yeah. I'll back that up by saying like taking initiative, reaching out to them. Also, like I heard a really good quote that said, when the student is ready, the teacher will present themselves. And like, I think you have to be at a point where, you are open to mentorship and seeking that and creating that vacancy for that person to like come into that space. I would also say that like, they don't necessarily have to be related to what you do to be a mentor. Like, for example, the mentors that I have come from very, very different aspects of my life. I had one that came from my family, one that came through like a friend of a friend who was a coach in my music world, like my music chapter in my life. And then I had another one who I'm still massively close with to this day, who literally was my English teacher for 4 years in high school and, ended up being like a second father. And so I would say like with those people, they don't have anything in common with like entrepreneurship. They don't do content creation, but I think those mentors are the ones that can mentor your character, mentor your mindset, teach you how to deal with adversity in life. That's where the value sort of comes in. And I think that like, if you can't find them in calisthenics, oftentimes you find them in roles where they're already kind of teaching. I mean, you might be able to speak to this. Like I did boxing for like 3 months and instantly I got a vibe off the coach that he was just like a bit of a mentor to a lot of the kids. And I think that like any sort of teaching roles, anything like that, is where it can really come in. Because they're not often the loudest figures.
I think it's people that, like when you meet, you respect them.
Yeah.
Very much so. I think those are people that you should be counting as mentors because the only reason you respect them is because you acknowledge them for all the stuff that they have and the stuff they're teaching.
Yeah.
And you think that it's very important and you want to hear them talk and take the advice from them because they are that important figure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I think if you got to respect them as a person. Like if you don't respect someone, you're not going to take any advice from them. But if you respect someone wholeheartedly, I think it's not a bad idea to take the advice off them because you yourself are respecting them because you think their values are good.
Yeah. There's a really good book on this that talks about the importance of a mentor. It's called Mastery by Robert Greene, who I think I mentioned in the last podcast, Robert Greene as well. But yeah, he talks about the importance of mentorship, and I definitely think that it's something that, if you show promise and you show initiative to a mentor, you'll be surprised how often they take you on. I think one of the biggest things you can do, uh, if I was going to try and drop some game or some stuff that helped me, is like, look, for example, like if you ask a rich man for $1, he won't give it to you. But if you ask him how to make $1 more times than not, he'll tell you how, right? But then what really cements it is if you come back to him a week later with $1 in your hand and you show that you actually took his advice. Yeah. Then they're more inclined to keep giving you advice, to keep moving forward from there. So, oftentimes it's not hard to find a mentor, and it's not even that hard to get in touch with them, but people get the advice or they get the answer. Maybe it's not the coddling, soft, praiseworthy, you're going to be something special advice that they wanted to hear. Maybe it's some colder, more logical, more brute stuff. And then they don't apply it. They don't take it on board. And they say, oh, it just didn't work out. I think reach out to a few people. If they give you any advice, implement it, take action, and come back to them with the results, and then ask for more. And then rinse and repeat, and you will build that relationship.
So you just said relationship there. Is a mentor someone that just gives you advice, or are they someone that you go to like pretty much all the time to seek knowledge?
I don't think you necessarily have to go to them all the time, but they don't always have to give you advice as well. It's more, a lot of the time it can just be simple guidance. Like if they see you getting off your path and whatnot, I think if they steer you back in the right direction, that's the right type of mentor.
And you also mentioned the book Mastery by Robert Greene. The book that I look to when thinking about a mentor is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because obviously the basis of the book is Robert Kiyosaki had a poor dad, and then he also had a rich dad. And I know I always say this in podcasts, but when I was 16, I also always read books. That was kind of like the crux of my life where I wanted to do something. So I always go back to that period. It's a really important part of my life. But yeah, when I read that book when I was 16, I always viewed having a mentor as the most important part of progressing. But it's really interesting to see because I haven't had a mentor. I've just kind of been winging it, but I believe I've been taking on advice from like people off YouTube and just bits and bops of messages around the internet and just looking at quotes, listening to people talk and all this. But it's just so interesting to me how the concept of a mentor has completely changed since maybe when Robert Kiyosaki was a young boy and he had that rich dad next door. Like everything's just all broken up and you just have to mix it into and like kind of form pieces of the puzzle and make it into a whole picture. That's what I found from social media.
Yeah, you're just
grabbing
taking
this,
Yes.
grabbing that, and try to build it yourself.
And that is definitely not as effective as having someone directly in your life. But I think the optimistic side to it is that it's accessible to a lot more people now.
Yeah, like if you can't find that one person, pick those bits from the people that you
Exactly.
do.
Because that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like in my life, I've been outgrowing everyone around me.
Yeah, and I've felt that a lot in my life as well, to be honest with you, man. Like that's a struggle that I've shared as well. I think that when it comes down to it, the reason that like a mentor-mentee relationship is, something that exists is because it's actually mutually beneficial. And so, it's not just the mentee who's getting something out of it. The mentor, they say you learn twice, like when you take in the information and then when you teach someone else the information, because you relearn things or you voice them in a way that you actually realize things when you're reteaching someone the basics. And so I would say that you mentoring all the people you've mentored has probably taught you a lot as well. And, if you're feeling as though you've outgrown a lot of people that you're around, which I can understand why you say that, like you've definitely
Leveled up quickly.
Yeah, you've leveled up. You've got big following. You've got obviously you're great at what you do with calisthenics and stuff as well. But I would also maybe read that as a sign that, you know, potentially it's time to look for a mentor. You see, like if you're already kind of near the top of the mountain when it comes to calisthenics, for example, there's not going to be too many people left in the pond that are above you on that hill. But I think you would find it a lot easier to find a mentor if you actually look at another aspect of your life that you want to start progressing in, and then you wanted to find a mentor to begin that journey of learning. And so, for example, that could be a mentor in content creation or a mentor in business and entrepreneurship. And those areas where maybe you haven't dedicated as much time. So like if you found a mentor in entrepreneurship and you come to them and say, hey, got the following that I've built on Instagram, I've got the skill and the brand that I've built behind my calisthenics, but I want to learn how to make some money out of monetizing, this side of things. And I really don't know anything about running a successful business. It's going to be a lot of people who can teach you something in that field, as opposed to how many people can still teach you stuff in the realm of calisthenics. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I think you'll be able to, have a bit better luck in that aspect.
Yeah, I think from that you're more saying just branch out rather than focusing all on the one thing. Like once you do reach that point where you are getting to the limit where you're not going to progress as much or you can't find a role model to look up to, you got to, I think at that point as well, you also got to work on yourself. You got to be your own role model when you are at the top at that level.
Yeah.
Because you got no one else telling you what to do. When you're at the top, you got to push yourself. You got to tell yourself what to do. But then you do got to go out and get those other mentors to level up in your other aspects of life at that time. So
I'll give you an example as well, because you kind of just sparked something for me. So Alex Hormozy, who I constantly reference, he was doing a video where he talked about he was in this like mastermind like group event, and it was only like 5 or 10 people. It was really, really small, and they were with some of the biggest e-commerce guys on the planet. Like these guys were doing like 7-figure days in e-commerce, like
must be nice.
ridiculous. And so one of the guys who like had this gigantic e-commerce store, right? He was basically like saying yes, like he was explaining all these different techniques and strategies and business concepts and stuff that they do in these like stores that are literally like as big as it gets. And you think about if any of us wanted to start e-commerce, there's $1,001,000 online courses that we could start, right? And we could purchase and learn something that we don't know. And then after you buy that, maybe you pay $10,000 for a mentor, or maybe you pay $25,000 for like, an advisor or something. But at the level that this guy was at, literally like Alex was saying, like we were all in this room and he was talking about these like convoluted strategies in e-commerce and these crazy different marketing campaigns and all this sort of stuff. Literally, we all just sat back at the end of it and we're like, how do you know this stuff? Like, how do you learn? Who teaches you? Like, where do you go? Like, how do you keep getting more from here? And he's like, look, I'm at a point now where pretty much no online course is going to teach me anything I don't know. No mentor that I've found is really going to be able to like educate me on new material. So what I now do is take a certain part of our revenue, put it into a budget, which I allocate to education and experimentation for the business. And with that budget, every month, I'll deploy it onto a completely different style of advertisement that we've never tried, or a completely different style of product, and so he's like, it's at a point now where I have to just experiment and innovate and trial and error. And so I think that's a really healthy way that you can look at it as well. If you feel like kind of in your linear progression where it's like you start, someone's above you, you surpass them, so you find someone higher, and then you surpass them, you find someone higher. There is that. But if you want to keep pushing and, like as you get up the mountain, there's less and less of a population as you go up. So it's always going to be kind of harder. So once you get to the top, if you want to keep going, then I think you have to start really just experimenting, really, like trialing new stuff and going from there. So I think that's another way that you could look at it too. Like it doesn't. Yeah, mentors are great, but I think especially for where you're at, like, bro, you're literally pioneering calisthenics in Australia. Like, as crazy as that statement may sound, you know. And I think when you realize the gravity of that, it might
the
actually,
gateway.
yeah,
It's very true.
Yeah, the
true.
gateway.
Like, it might actually give you a bit more confidence to realize, like, and to feel better about the fact that you may not be able to find a mentor in your space, but that's okay because there's still other ways of pushing the bar forward, you know?
Yeah.
We've covered some good stuff tonight. I hate
Bit
to be that
tired.
guy, but I'm getting to a point where my mental acuity is decreasing.
Just because it's 1 a.m. in the
At a-
morning.
at a
Yeah,
immense
but you
rate.
know why? Because you ate that apple, mate. That's exactly why
Honestly,
you're not
I
lasting.
was earlier about to say, like, my stomach feels whack. I don't like how the apple made me feel.
This guy,
I'm not even kidding.
do they know? So you've been on carnivore, and
For too
today
long.
he ate a banana and an apple,
And had some soy sauce.
and had some soy sauce.
Oh, that's fine. That's
Soy
minimal
sauce
amount
would be
of
fine,
But
but he's half the man he
For a
was.
second, I decided that I wanted to trial out fruit, but honestly, after eating those 2 pieces of fruit, I think I'm.
Well, you enjoy. It looked like you enjoyed that apple a bit.
Yeah, I did, but
it's not
dude,
worth
the
it.
fiber in the apple just makes me feel bloated. Like when I tell people I'm on carnivore, they think, "Oh man, you must be shitting your guts up, this and that." But it's actually the opposite, dude. The when you digest your carbs, like when I went back to Sydney, dude, I went from going to the toilet 2 times a day to 6 times, like easily each day, just from getting back on carbs.
Straight in, straight out.
Yeah, like, and after I've just eaten an apple, I feel bloated. Like, I actually don't like how I feel.
Maybe you shouldn't eat apples then.
So I think I
Apples are
might
the
scrap
enemy.
that idea and just go back to
Was it a
meat.
poison apple? Could have been.
Could have been.
I think Tangy actually injected that apple with liquid carbs, bro.
Yeah.
Could have.
It's just like the juice.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, no, it's been an incredible podcast. It's 1 a.m.
Bro,
We're
you're gonna-
definitely
Done
fading.
You're gonna
looks
leave
everywhere.
tomorrow.
I'm faded.
Yeah, I got to
Bro,
drop you. I got to drop you over
7:30
the airport at 5 a.m.
Yeah, you will literally have to be up in 4 hours. My suitcase,
That's right. That's enough sleep.
my suitcase isn't even packed. I'll sleep on the flight for sure. But man, it is actually so sad. Like, this is it. This is my
Yeah.
last night here. We're pretty much done.
You got to see the podcast get set up and everything as well.
I
You've
got
been
to
here
see
for it.
so
You've
much,
helped
man.
with it.
Yeah,
You've given us a hand. Just jump
bro,
right in.
it's literally been an honor. Like, it has genuinely been an honor. Like, obviously, you know, I understand that I'm not on the same sort of journey as you guys when it comes to like the calisthenics and the passion that you guys have for that, which I can only sort of look at with admiration and you know, be thankful that I got to take some part in. But like, you know, just this week in itself has just been an absolute honor and like experience to be a part of. And I'm just so excited to see how you guys progress moving forward. It's going to be awesome to watch.
And likewise, I mean, it's been having you for the week. It's gone much better than we'd expected, and it's definitely left a bit of an impact on us as well. Because
Oh,
we've gained a
appreciate
lot gained a lot from you then, as well. Similar to you've probably gained a lot from us. So, yeah, 2-way street.
Yeah, like we've had a lot of conversations with you. I know you've had a lot of conversations with Isaac and Jordan and everyone. You've given us a different input, you know, because we are all very similar very similar mindset. You've given us like another aspect to look at through
Appreciate
all these ventures. But we're also very keen to see how you go taking it back to Sydney with these new ideas and things you want to explore back in Sydney.
We'll be watching.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll be
No, likewise,
miring.
boys. We'll be spied. Yeah, bro. No, much love, man. I'm so keen. We're gonna get stuck back into it, and I'll be getting the content going as well on my
Look
side of
forward to
things.
seeing
And
it.
I'll have to keep you posted for sure, man. But
No, we'll be
far out.
watching, don't worry.
Seriously, if you need help like with content or calisthenics, or
We know a
anything,
thing or two.
you know who to call.
You already know. I love you, Tangy. I told you a million times a day I love you, bro. You're the best. You're genuinely like, you guys are all honestly like just such good lads, man. And,
We're just reciprocating what you've put out, man. Don't worry.
oh, bro.
Like if you were being a negative Nancy, we wouldn't have been as supportive.
Yeah, I would have just gotten planched to the
No, you'd
face, bro.
still be on the couch.
That's it. On the floor.
Yeah, you wouldn't get the couch.
That's it. No, it's been
No,
awesome,
beautiful.
man. We'll wrap it up there, and
think
we'll
we're
go
done.
pack the suitcase, get 4 hours of sleep, and
Power nap.
Yes,
Power nap.
sir.
fly out,
Beautiful.
Let's
Good
go.
stuff, boys.
man. And Tyler's first podcast as well.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hell yeah.
I'm here now to
Good
say.
Do we
stuff.
need to outro it all or nah?
Nah.
Well, if you want to follow us on Instagram and YouTube,
Yes,
Yeah, you should-
Spotify, YouTube.
Like, subscribe, 5 stars.
Bit of this, bit of
Well, I'm
that.
gonna put it out
Please.
there. I don't know if it's gonna come up or not, but follow our new Discord channel.
Ooh.
We can
Spicy.
stay up to date with announcements, find a community of like-minded individuals, and I don't know, have a bit of bants on there. But there we go.
Done.
Done.